Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Risen Dominate here for week 4 of the fall season. My name is Drake. I'm joined by Quacks, and we're here to watch for fun take on Angry French Peasants. It's going to be a little bit of a banger. I mean, I'm glad to finally be back here for Dominate, so I know I'm going to be enjoying my time here. Quacks, you did get to catch up on Dominate for week 2, I believe.
Yep,
So how
yep.
was that? You excited to see a little bit more from Dominate?
I mean, it was an absolute slaughter fest in week number 2, and I feel like the teams I think the one thing that I've learned is that there is a very big distinction between the top teams and the bottom teams here in Dominate. It really feels like there is a gap, and I'm looking
Mm,
at this series to kind of be a counter to that thought process that I have of Dominate so far. Because for fun, currently 0-3 on the standings. Angry French Presidents 3-0 topping the standings. So these teams could not be further apart in terms of score, so they're going to have to be very close in gameplay in order for that to change. And I will say, I feel like Angry French peasants have just a really good understanding of draft
yeah.
as we do get into it. It feels like this squad do their homework, they've done the extra
Mm.
credit, and they go into every single game fully prepared and knowing what to go for.
Yeah, I mean, it's disgusting, bro. These guys have been studying through the night. Like, their eyes are bloodshot and they're still passing the test 100%. Like, bro, Sir Raven locks in, like, random jungler champion and is like,
Yes.
oh, like, it's totally going to the jungle, guys. Like, I'm locking in J4. It's
Mhm.
totally a jungler, guys. And then just plays it top lane. Anyways,
Yep.
and then, like,
Yep.
they just dominate draft through that every single time, it looks like. Like, he plays Olaf, he plays Trundle, he plays Wukong, J4, Udyr, like, all these champions that you have no idea where it's actually going to go. And
Mhm.
I think that's like been the makings of their success so far. It looks like For Fun did have side selection and have chose for that red side. A couple of bands coming out. Targets for the side of AFP, I feel like, taking a couple of the comfort champions away from For Fun. But like you said, I mean, the standings show it all. I feel like AFP might be a little bit confident going into this one.
And if we're talking about a jungle and a mid flex, a champion that hasn't been taken away is the Skarner. Still a
Mm,
very, very strong champion in the current meta. It can flex into top lane. It can be that kind of big anchor for your squad to rally behind. Wouldn't be surprised if that's going to be picked up. But instead, it's actually going to be the Zig. So a little bit of target focus toward that bot lane
mm.
instead. Or I would assume it's going to be a bot lane Ziggs. Obviously, the champion can go mid lane, super effective into both. And there is the Skarner potentially for fun. Yeah, this champion super duper good. A little bit less valuable against a champion like a Ziggs, who basically
Mm.
punishes you for walking through his mines, taking all that damage, and is also very difficult to engage on if the Ziggs knows what they're doing with that satchel charge. And I'm interested to see what we're going to see paired up with it. I would imagine maybe we see a mid laner pick. Syndra is on the board if you want that extra little bit of lockdown, or you can just
Whoa.
go and pivot for a counter pick in the bot lane, assuming that's, of course, where the Ziggs goes. Jin, I like this. I think it's a good pick. So
Mm.
overall, just interested to see what it's going to be paired up with down there.
Yeah, and it's interesting to see like a little bit of a clashing of styles, right? Because I feel like
Mm-hmm.
some people are leaning more towards like the APC situation at the moment, where Ziggs is super strong, Swain is playable, Brand is still pretty darn good,
Syndra
and,
as
and
well
you,
down there,
yeah, and you just feel
right?
like all these champions are so good in the bot lane, and then you're either on that like side of the coin or you're on the other side where you're like, okay, eight standard ADCs are still very strong. I'm gonna lock in Jin, who's really good at the moment as well,
Yep.
and we're gonna see who ends up winning out in that exchange. But it looks like the
There
Volibear
it
is
is.
kind of the response, and I mean Volibear Skarner, like I feel like I've seen this a million times.
And this is exactly what we just talked about, right? Sir Raven playing these jungle champs in the top lane, or it could go jungle. So that flexibility that angry French peasants are able to constantly reel around makes it so difficult to draft against them. I would imagine we're probably going to see something paired with the Ziggs here. Leona
Mm.
is a good answer. Yes, I really like that. Or you could go for something like Rel. The Nautilus is also good if you want some disengage. So they're actually just going to lock in that Rel. I like this a lot. There's a lot of team fight go buttons
Yeah.
already with the Volibear Stormbringer and the Rel's Mount Up and Magnet Storm. So it seems very much so like AFP are just looking to draft a standard front to back comp with that interesting mix being the Ziggs in the bot lane.
And I mean, it's an interesting one to say the least, right? That the Ziggs got locked in, but also just the fact that like Jenna has been locked in for the other side. Something that I noticed when I was scouting these two teams was the fact that For Fun, like they've been playing Mental Cow as their support until last week, and then they subbed in their support or sorry, their mid jungle duo for support ADC that they had last season, because For Fun was a team last season in Dominate, but they only had Shima and Yundai, and they put them in the bottom lane. It didn't. I mean, they've lost all 3 series, right? So nothing has gone well for them just yet. But I believe Hyundai was the person who played Janna, so I wouldn't be surprised if that's going to be those two playing in the bot lane again. And that leaves things open for their jungler because, I mean, if it's not Shima, then, it could be the Skarner going jungle. We haven't seen it played for them yet. I mean, it's still a flex pick nonetheless.
It is, and I feel like the Janna loses a little bit of flexibility because you lost that experience on the wards when you take them down. And
Yeah.
roaming, just as a concept for supports, has kind of been dumbed down a little bit since the new patch in 14.19. Now, of course, we're on 14.20, but the fact still remains. So I would imagine maybe we'll see a strong mid laner here. Ari is still available. I would like to see that picked. I also think it's a really good blind. Syndra, again, on the table. One of these mages that just has that burst potential, has the ability to really disrupt a fight. If you pair that up with a Janna, I think you have a really strong case for just having this Janna be around the map constantly and making it really difficult to track where she is. You also have a lot of lockdown now, right? With the Skarner, with the Janna, with the Syndra, and even the Jhin W, the Deadly Flourish, is
Yeah.
really effective at just holding down a certain member. And I have to imagine that member is going to likely be the Ziggs.
Yeah, the pick potential is definitely there here for fun, and like Jin being able to follow up from half a screen away is really really comforting as an ADC player. So even if you're not actually there in the fight, you can contribute something and then move in afterwards. And
Yeah.
I mean, I think the Syndra being locked in does mean that Archeo is going to be the one playing mid lane because he played Syndra in their last series as well. So we're going to see something new from For Fun and their jungler. I'm not sure who it's going to be today. They might
Ooh.
just be finding subs. But on the
Yeah.
opposite side, that Olaf flex, another flex coming out from the side of AFP, and we still don't know if it's Volibear or Olaf going into that top side.
Oof, yeah. I mean, this is a really strong topside draft here for AFP. Regardless of where the Volibear and Olaf and Jace go, they are all going to be in the top side of the map, and I have to imagine that's where a lot of the action is going to be. I was going to say I really hope they don't pick the Cassante because this Cassante is going to have a bit of a rough time, right? Ejections are going to be difficult to come by, I feel, in
Mm.
for the back line, right? You've got a lot of difficulty going through the Ziggs bombs. You got a lot of difficulty escaping the Realm Magnet Storm. And just being able to get to that Ziggs is going to be a challenge later on. But just talking in lane phase terms, right? Those first 14 minutes, I would say, are going to be difficult because Olaf is constantly going to be bullying you out. Oh, it's not an Olaf. It's maybe a Olaf in the jungle and a Volibear in top lane. It kind of feels like the same difference, right? The Stormbringer is going to be able to challenge you. Those extended fights are what Volibear loves and thrives on. So really, the only winning matchup, realistically, of these three champions that you would do well on with Cassante is Jace, but Jace is able to poke you out. And their mid laner is also literally called LL Cool Jace. So I would imagine that Jace is probably not going in the top lane. It's probably going in the mid lane. Overall, I do like For Fun's draft, minus the Cassante pick. I just feel like it doesn't have that agency. Meanwhile, AFP, if they can control this top side, if they can get that Olaf, Volibear, and Jace in a winning position and just have the Ziggs and Rel chill for the time being, this team is going to run you over in the late game. It does not matter how much armor or how much bursts you have. They're going to be able to tank it all up and simply run you down.
Yeah, that is kind of the issue with these two drafts, right? The fact that For Fun kind of drafted a we will blow one person up team comp, and AFP
Mm-hmm.
said, okay, we'll pick 4 damage dealers. Like we
Yeah.
we don't care. Like you blow up one of us, we have 3 more people absolutely decimating your team comp, right? Because
Yeah.
of the fact that all 4 of those champions on their side, minus the Rel, are such strong independent champions at doing damage, and
Mm-hmm.
they can just walk away from the Skarner, walk away from the Cassante, absolutely one shot the Jin and Syndra, and then the team comp for fun kind of falls apart. So it's going to be very difficult navigating these team fights for sure.
I think then we're really looking at the laning phase here for the For Fun squad, especially that Syndra, like we highlighted. I think it's going to be really imperative that that pick is the ahead one going out of those 15 to 14-minute mark. And just being able to roam around. I think that Janna and that Skarner have a lot of work to deal with that Jace. And luckily, Jace, an immobile mid, right? He's not the most mobile of champions. He's got a lot of tools for disengage, notably able to knock you back with that hammer slam, has
Mm.
the speed up from the gates as well. But minus that, if you have 3 people converging on you, if you've got a Skarner coming over the wall, if you've got a Scatter the Weak hitting you, if you've got a Johninato throwing you up like the Hurricanes in Florida, I had to make a reference there, maybe too soon. Then it's going to be really hard for LL Cool Jace to actually go out of this laning phase, in somewhat of an effective manner. And if Jace can't get ahead in the laning phase, then he's kind of a sitting duck, right? His poke's not going to deal enough damage to deal with the Skarner. His engage is just going to get popped, and the Syndra is going to be able to pop a lot of members of AFP. That Ziggs and that Jace are going to be the primary targets. But if it gets ahead enough, even that Volibear and that Olaf could be under threat at a certain point.
Yeah, and I mean that's when we stop looking at the draft and start looking at the nameplates, right? I think that's
Yep.
really key here as well. The fact that Voyage and Data have been a pretty strong duo throughout the time that we've seen them here in Dominate, right? This is a brand new team, so we haven't seen these players too much. This is only week 4, so they've only played about 8 games. I think 9. One of their series went to 3 games.
Yeah.
But either way, right? Voyage and Data have been absolutely running the map, and as a duo, when you're looking at either the Volibear or the Olaf with Arel by their side, moving into that mid lane in these 3v3 skirmishes and these 2v2 skirmishes, I'm quite terrified if I am the side of For Fun. Skarner, super tanky in the early game, but not going to be the massive damage dealer that you'd like. Syndra
Mm-hmm.
does have like some early game prowess, but she's leaned more towards the scaling side now. So,
Mm-hmm. The
I mean, when you're talking
splinters.
about early game agency, like AFP, they've kind of got it down.
For sure. I think especially when you've got the Volibear, you're definitely looking at the early game to kind of be the big focal point that you can snowball off of. But I kind of like the point that you mentioned about Jeddah and Voyage in particular, because this duo really has been at the top of the table, right? They have been running every single game that they have played. They have been consistent at that runnage, if you will. It feels like they are on really good paces every single time in the Dominate League. This time around, though, they're going to have to reel in a little bit of that in the Dominate League. I think they're going to have to just play it safe, let the
Yeah.
Volibear, Jason, Olaf do its thing. Hell, I wouldn't be surprised if Voyage says goodbye, Jeddah. I am going off to do things with my top side, and it's going to be up to him to just kind of sit down around the tower and take the advantages that his team is naturally accruing from the top side of the map without it.
Yeah, that's definitely a key point here, right? Like Ziggs is not a champion that you want to be getting ahead early, or at least like you're not going to be trying to do so. He's not
Yeah,
a super early game focused champion, and he has that scaling in his back pocket, so you don't need to rush anything. So it'll be interesting to see, how AFP are able to reel that in, how they're able to control themselves in this game, considering that they are 3-0 up and For Fun is 0-3 so far on their standings. So, coming into this game, AFP are probably going to have a little bit of confidence behind them.
yeah.
But we'll have to see how it all plays out on the Rift, guys. We'll be back after a really short break, and don't go anywhere. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Risen Dominate Fall Week 4. My name is Drake. I'm joined by Quacks, and we're here to watch For Fun take on AFP. AFP are going to be on that blue side for us, and For Fun on the red. It looks like a standard 5-point from either of these two teams, and, For Fun not playing for fun just yet.
Certainly not. And it looks like both teams, none of them have particular strong level ones. The only caveat to that would probably be Sir Raven with the undertow, just being able to get those slows. But it doesn't look like at the current moment they are looking to get aggressive whatsoever. And it is going to be just a stock standard first minute of the game. And I'm actually really interested to see where these junglers are pathing. You can see Data kind of roaming on down, gonna probably start that red buff. Like we said, really wants to play around that top side. For the side of Mental Cow, though, I feel like he has a few more options on what side he wants to play for. Obviously, he can go top. Cassante has a lot of good lockdown. Combine that with the Skarner, and it's very difficult for even an Olaf to move or escape. But it's looking like he's actually electing to path toward the Jhin and the Janna, so just trying to make do with that 80 carry. Probably trying to punish the weak side of AFP that he knows Data is likely pathing away from.
This is going to be an interesting game to watch. I mean, For Fun have literally swapped their bottom lane from their first 2 weeks into their jungle mid, and obviously vice versa. Mental Cow being the support previously, and Chow being the ADC. So it's going to be interesting to see, whether off-role Mental Cow is better than, Shima in that role, or what's going to be happening here, because Shima obviously swapping over to that ADC role as well. It's going to be interesting to see who steps up. Olaf already getting a kill. That's going to be devastation for this top lane. I mean, we were already talking about how it's kind of an Olaf favorite matchup. That's a brutal way to start this game.
That really can't feel good for Fenor, because he not only dies, but he also has to waste his ghost, waste his TP. Sir Raven didn't have to use anything in that exchange. He was just bringing himself and his axes. I wonder if I feel like Olaf is the type of person to name those axes. Maybe Sir Raven is the type of person to name them instead.
Yeah.
Raven and Crow are the axe names, I bet.
Probably, something like that, or Craggy and Ice. Something.
Yeah.
But, I mean, this is definitely going to be just a horrible lane from now on for Fenor. It's up to Mental Cow to kind of bail him out at some point. But you don't even want to go up there as a Skarner, right? Like, realistically, if Olaf turns a 2v1, still has Ghost, still has TP, this guy's going to come back with a few items under his belt. It just gets even worse, and you don't want an Olaf who's going to run down the entire game. So,
and
I don't even know when he's supposed to come up here.
It might even be worse for the top side of the map. You can see Data is actually finishing those camps. Is just finally done with the full clear. Might be able to look for a dive in the top side, but for now, we got our eyes on the bot lane.
Yeah, Miracle maybe going in a little bit too quickly. Miracle Whips has to flash away towards his rush, and the rock from Mental Cow able to secure that kill for his team. Janna lands the Nado onto Jed, but it won't lead to anything more. And For Fun trade a kill back on the board.
We've talked about this in the draft. Jed and Miracle Whip, they've got to play it safe. They've got to play it. This is not a Kaisa lane, a Jinx aggressive trade on. This is a Ziggs weak side lane. And we're seeing that they are not, and we're seeing that those champions definitely are not as good at dueling a Jhin and a Janna, who are designed to do just that, especially when the Skarner visits. So yeah, good visit there by Mental Cow. Now is probably not going to be able to spot out Data, who took away those Krugs, I believe, and is just trying to mess with this top side of the map. Getting good vision as well against a champion like Skarner is imperative because of how active it is in the early game.
Very much is, and I mean, Yunda and Miracle Whips almost look like they're having a staring contest right now. I think Miracle Whips is on vision, so they do know what's going on. But the flash forward from Data trying to get the kill. The crash down from Miracle Whips, and a Chow barely able to flash away, but it's nowhere near enough. Cool Jace walking away like a cool guy from Explosions, gets that kill. And we'll be able to push in the wave as well. What a good start here for AFP.
We talked about the importance of getting the mid laners ahead, and we're seeing both teams try their hand at just pressuring that side of the map. Cool Jace managing to get that kill. And overall, it is just setting up yet another win condition here for AFP. They've got Sir Raven ahead, they've got the Jace ahead. This top side, the highlight of this comp, is really in a good spot so far, but they're looking to change that on the side of For Fun.
Ooh, no, but Olaf has the Ragnarok, is landing the auto attacks, is not getting CC'd. but we'll have to walk away. It's hard to fight when, you know, it is kind of a 3v1, the turret being included. So Sir Raven, I mean, he walks away alive. The enemy team is skimpering away. He's going to get this wave in as well. I mean, like, this is a pretty good spot for Raven.
Yeah, the wave is going to slow push back to Sir Raven. I don't even think he has to expend his teleport back to lane. He might just do that in order to crash the wave and make sure that Fenor can miss a couple of waves of experience. But given how far behind this Cassante is already, it might not be necessary to say that. Yeah, and he channels that over. Yeah, it is just putting this Cassante further and further behind, and it looks like AFP are all kind of united on that mentality. You can see Miracle Whips is on the top side here, just waiting to see if Fenor might overextend. And you can take a look at the wave. It's actually pushing for the side of the Cassante. He's gonna have to walk up without. He just has the ghost. I don't know how close he is to level 6, so he could potentially try to get out of this. But right now, it is looking a little dangerous.
He's 1 minion away, and it might not be enough. Miracle Whips is gonna walk away though. But, I mean, still being in this top side does mean that Volibear has that priority over the grubs, and they'll get started up right away. A good response coming out from For Fun, right? They have started up that dragon on the opposite side, and it's nearly dead, actually. So, Mental Cow going to get something in exchange, but, I mean, this is exactly what AFP were looking for, right? Such a dominant top half of that map. It's completely theirs.
For sure, but I would also say that For Fun managed to get a decent objective as well. It's not just any dragon, right? It's the mountain, and it's really effective at having that when you've got the Skarner, you've got the Cassante, you've got this tanky top side. Just being able to keep them a little bit more healthy consistently is definitely a good thing for Fun. But yeah, I definitely agree that the grubs much more valuable for AFP, not just because this top side has been constantly pushing for them so far 7 minutes into this game, but also because you've got that Ziggs, right? You've got that Tower Destroyer 9000 on your team, and pairing that up with the grubs can be really dangerous, especially once this pick goes off toward other lanes further on in the game.
Yeah, I mean, this is a rough start, I will be honest, for the side of For Fun, and AFP trying to get a little bit more done. Data not going to be able to shut off that turret with that ult though, and Hyundai able to flash away, get to safety. But Fenor is still disconnected from the Janna, is still getting punished underneath this turret, is still getting proxied by Sir Raven. And Miracle Whips doesn't even need to go back to lane, is not soaking XP, is just staying level 3. I mean, Jed is level 6, Sir Raven. And you actually look at this, pops the Ragnarok, is trying to get the kill on Hyundai, no flash available. But the exhaust is enough to deter the Olaf. A couple more auto attacks, keeping the Ragnarok available. The crash down from Miracle Whip. The follow-up from the Volibear, and it's going to be a kill picked up by Data. And AFP continue to dominate this top half.
Hyundai walking up way too far for seemingly no reason. They knew the Olaf was in the they could literally see him. They knew the rest of the members of AFP were on that side of the map, but we got no time to talk about that as Cool Chase gets a solo.
He's out. He's just out. He has too much movement speed. Mental Cow can't get back into range, and I mean, that's going to be Jace with a solo bolo walking away alive in a 2v1. Yeah. And I mean, AFP just look like they're firing on all cylinders.
And we're seeing AFP's come alive. I love that Miracle Whips is really putting their foot on the gas on this top side of the map, but we're kind of seeing the con of doing that as well, right? We're seeing the con of roaming. Shima.
Jed, 2 more autos. The flash Q, and it's there! The fade away coming out from Jed, and he gets the solo bolo as well. And AFP just winning out in all of their 1v1s. Jed has to be careful though. Mental Cow moving in is not going to be slowed by that E, but Jed is going to get clipped by the Q, and the ult is there to follow up. Miracle Whips might just be whipped into the ground as well. Miracle Cow with a good Q, the slow, and the kill will get secured. That's going to be a double kill for Mental Cow in this bottom lane.
I think it was actually Hyundai managing to get one of those as well. So a little bit unfortunate that the Skarner didn't get both. That would have set him up to be a really dangerous threat later on in the game. But nonetheless, good punish coming out there from For Fun. They really, again, they punished Jed for walking up just a little too far on the Ziggs. Again, he just has to reel it in a little bit because the rest of the team is really putting their foot on the gas as well. You can see a 2-0 Jace, a 1-0 Olaf, very far ahead, close to 30 CS difference there in the top lane, and a 20 CS difference there in the mid lane. So these solo laners on the side of AFP are just absolutely dominating the game. I think AFP, the bot side, just don't give For Fun an avenue. There really shouldn't be anything they can play for past 15 minutes.
And I feel like the big issue of this is even the fact that AFP got their top side ahead. Hold that thought. Miracle Whip's trying to find the Q. Not going to be able to find that stun. But, I mean, it's not even an issue in itself that AFP have gotten their top lane ahead. Or, okay, hold on. Hyundai. Kind of in no man's land, so Raven does not have Ragnarok, so will not be able to follow up any further, but the
Undertow
Q does
lands.
land, and Hyundai, clipped by the slow, has to burn the ultimate. And I mean, that just means that it's probably going to be grub secured.
A lot of resources to get out there from Hyundai, but he escapes nonetheless. And we're just seeing how oppressive AFP are on this top side of the map. You've got the grub spawning in a little less than a minute. And that was a little bit of a cheeky gameplay coming out there from
even Smite wasn't even in range. That was Jungle Pet.
I think so. Yeah, I think you're right. But we're just seeing how oppressive they're being on the top side of the map. The grubs are coming up, and you can tell 4Fun really want to fight this. They really want to do something, but they just can't really get anything on the map.
Cool Jace with a good flash away, able to dodge enough of that damage coming out from Archeo. He's going to land a Q back and deter a little bit of time. Ziggs with the ult over the top. Hyundai barely out of range of the Volibear, going to get clipped by Mental Cow's ultimate. Skarner has to be careful. There's not really much follow-up from his team. He might just find himself in the grave. Mental Cow so low is going to get taken down. The curtain gets called. Miracle Whips is the center of attention, but will not get clipped by that fourth shot. Jed will block it for him, and AFP walk away 1-0 in that. Okay, 2-0 in that fight.
Jed again landing these bombs. This is the sniper man right here on the side of AFP. But yeah, they managed to get that jungle. They managed to get the support. They have complete ownership of this top side of the map. And so Data is going to be happily smashing away at those grubs. So it's going to be 6 grubs given over to a split-pushing Olaf, a 2-0 Jace, and a Ziggs. It is a very, very difficult hole that 4Fun have found themselves in, and it feels like they're going to have to do a lot to climb out. Luckily, though, the Dragon is up and available, and you can see Mental Cow as well as Thenor are on that side of the map. A Chow does not have teleport, so the Syndra won't be able to join up if they want it. So they're setting up, but they don't have all the members here.
Scary situation, but yeah, I mean, another issue for this draft is when you dig yourself such a deep hole and only one of your champions has a dash ability, it's really hard to get out of it. So 4Fun definitely going to be struggling as this game gets a little bit further on. They don't really have the scaling besides Syndra, I would say, in the later stages as well. And I mean, we were talking about it being single target damage for 4Fun, but in this fight so far, they are able to single out one target, and that means they get the kill here onto Rel. Kyle moving in, trying to get a little bit more damage down onto this dragon.
Raven on the side.
It doesn't look like they actually want the fight. Jace pushing them out of the pit. Mental Cow looking in for this fight. Will not be able to get it. Data secures it. The Skarner goes down on the opposite side. Olaf's wreaking absolute havoc into the backline of 4Fun. And he's shredding through the backline. Archeo, the last remaining survivor. And he'll go down as well. The Olaf will eventually go back to Valhalla, but he did it with a triple kill.
For sure, he went down in blood and glory, and it was a glorious fight there for AFP, but almost off the back of a miscalculation from 4Fun. Mental Cow's smite was way too early in that exchange, and because he stayed, the rest of the team stays with him and they die with him. So it is going to be not just the first dragon for AFP, but it's also going to be that mid lane tower. They have unlocked so much more of the map, particularly that top side. You've got the Herald spawning in about 15 seconds here, which means that they can probably take this with little to no contest from the side of 4Fun, who just continuously are digging themselves into a deeper hole, finding themselves in tougher and tougher situations. Now a 7,000 gold lead in favor of AFP, and just now the turrets drop.
Yeah, they've blown this game absolutely wide open. It is a travesty to say the least. 4Fun are really in a pickle here. I mean, how would you want to get back into this game if you were 4Fun? I mean, picks are not going to do it, right? Like, you have a 7,000 gold deficit, nearly 8,000. At this point in the game, you have such I would say a team fight disadvantage, right? There's so much AoE on the side of AFP, and it kind of counters all of what 4Fun wants to do in these team fights. I mean, I don't even know if committing 4 people towards the top side kills Olaf. I mean, you're just going to die in your jungle Miracle Whips, but good crash down into the backline Magnet Storm to follow up. Data over the top, and that's just going to be a very dead Jhin to start off this fight. Mental Cow does trade one back, but he'll go down as well. And a double kill for the Olaf. So Raven, absolutely monstrous on this top lane champion, and I mean, AFP just win every fight they take.
Miracle Whip really feels like the bait for the side of AFP. I mean, he goes down in a lot of changes. That's the second time in a row, but he's more than happy to go down, seeing the fact that his team is taking more bites out of For Fun than they are receiving. Now they get the 2 kills. They're going to take that and the Herald. And even in a 2v1 situation, Sir Raven is undeterred, unafraid, ready to go, and certainly ready to brawl. And now Herald falls, turrets, both 2 turrets in a row fall, and the map just continues to get wider and wider here in game number 1.
Yeah, I mean, as the map gets wider, For Fun's hopes for winning this game get a little bit narrower. Jace might end up getting caught here, though. The pin from Mental Cow is enough to slow him down. The Q as well. The QE from Chow does go slightly wide, but the ult from Skarner to keep him in place. But Jace is still not dead. He's still right-clicking the enemy. He's still dodging every gosh darn ability, but Mental Cow finally able to take him down and might be able to walk out alive. He's doing his best, but Rel is there to stop him. Miracle Whips doing absolute wonders for this side. Jed gonna secure that kill, and AFP, I mean, they lost the Jace eventually, but they still won that team fight.
It's a 2-for-2 trade at the end of the day for Fun. With how far behind, I think that's probably worth it in their mind, but still, more kills going over to Jed. The Zig's now a very, very consistent threat for the comp of AFP, and now For Fun are looking to put it down. You can see the double teleport coming out.
Yeah, this could prove good. I mean, Rel is once again being the bait of AFP and might end up doing so in vain. Does end up going down. Jed gonna get claimed as well. Eventually, the curtain gets called, and who is it gonna be donated to? Syndra will pick that one up, and Archeo gets a little bit more gold into his pocket, and For Fun starting to actually find avenues back into this game.
For sure, yeah, they got a bunch of kills for themselves. They gave it to the Syndra, said Drake, and now there's a dragon spawning in about a minute here. But I will say, expending both of those teleports means it's going to be really difficult for any sort of a flank angle for Achu or Thenor, because they simply don't have the resources to get to that back line. So it means they're going to have to push out these waves. They're going to have to face the side of AFP, but AFP are ready to go.
Cool Jace just absolutely showing that Syndra who's boss. Mental Cow forced to dash over that wall because of, or sorry, tunnel, I guess, through the wall because the blast got taken away. And I mean, that's just going to be absolute control of this bottom jungle, and with this dragon spawning in 30 seconds, that's a really strong position for AFP.
I always felt like it was like Skarner kind of. I feel like the adjective to use for his E is like trundling. You know what I mean? He just or like trudging, maybe shimmying if you want to get a little fancy with it. You know,
chugging, like
chugging.
It's kind of like a train.
The train, I like it. Honestly, we got a train conductor orange skin, so it's not out of the realm of possibility to get a train conductor Skarner skin. I certainly think Flowers would be happy about that one.
Wow, they just could not kill Shelly there. I mean, that was unfortunate. Shelly making it all the way to that turret on her lonesome, able to get that crash down, and a little bit more damage onto another tier 2 in the bottom lane. It's going to be Thenor surviving an absolute onslaught from Jace and Raven. You know, AFP do have to be careful here. They can't absolutely decimate the enemy team in their base, as we've seen in a couple of these team fights, but just getting this pressure leads to that dragon getting picked up, and now they can back away. Miracle Whips has a lot of avenues out of this fight, so Raven is going to have to pop that Ragnarok eventually, has Ghost as well, but could run in, and also he wants to. Into the backline he goes, and it's going to be Thenor taking a lot of damage. Hyundai has to flash away. Volibear into the backline. Shima extremely low. Chow taken down. Shima next to follow. Hyundai underneath the turret, but it will not save his life. The Olaf goes down, but at what cost? AFP take down 4.
AFP with an absolute monster team fight there, and they didn't even have their Ziggs. Now the Ziggs are going to join up to the wave, and AFP 4 members strong. Sir Raven is the only casualty of that battle, and it might just be the last battle. The respawns are coming in. Maybe AFP want to try to end here. They don't have the Storm Surge. They don't have a lot of resources to go to kill Mental Cow. But yeah, they're hitting. They're going to try to go for it.
Take one. They really thought about it. It's difficult. They can peel back in this fight and make it work, but Miracle Whip's taken down. That dissuades a little bit more of this fight. Cool Jace is getting low as well. The Janna W able to slow him down just enough to nearly get cooked by a couple of these abilities, able to knock back Thenor, but the W is so dang annoying from this Janna. Jace eventually going to go down. The TP coming out from Sir Raven might prove fatal. The Ragnarok not quite available for him. Jed trying to get away from Mental Cow. Sir Raven finds himself in the middle of 5 members of the enemy team, but he decides to try and run forward. And he does a little bit of damage onto the Jhin, but the curtain call is enough. It's going to be the Olaf taken down. It's going to be the Skarner trade it in exchange, but it will be for fun pushing AFP out of their base.
For Fun managed to kind of turn that one around. They get some picks for themselves. AFP, though, managed to get some as well. So it's both teams kind of limping away, licking their wounds, and hoping to return back to the fight. But I realistically don't know how much more fight the squad of For Fun have in them. Sure, you don't have to deal with the threat of the late game Dragon Soul, as there's only 2 on board for AFP so far. The third going to be spawning in 3 minutes. So that's kind of out of the question. But what isn't out of the question, Drake, is this Baron. You can see the teleports coming through, the respawns coming in. All the members of AFP are materializing around this top side that they have owned since minute 1. And they're hoping to take their last objective of the game and just charge toward the Nexus with it.
I mean, it's not too difficult of a task to do if you are this ahead. But you do have to play clinical. You have to play carefully. You don't want to give over even one of your team members, because at this stage in the game, it can lead to a team fight loss, even if you have a 10,000 gold lead. So you have to be careful nonetheless, and it looks like they will be doing so. They'll be doing their due diligence, claiming all of this vision, claiming all of the river, of the river and the jungle that they can. Data moving in, trying to get Mental Cow to run away, and has done so. And they'll just be waiting, right, for a pick for the enemy team to back away and move towards their waves, as they can see Cassante now, and they can decide to start that Baron if they feel like it.
And it feels just so difficult for For Fun to walk into this side here. I mean, you've got a lot of pick tools, but what realistically are you going to fire at them when you don't have any vision, right? You've got a Skarner charging into a pit blind. You've got a Syndra EQing into this pit of blind, giving away their only kind of disengage in favor for a little bit of damage.
And into the backline goes Miracle Whips, finds the crash down onto Hyundai, and might just be able to find enough damage to get him down. Mental Cow caught in the middle of 5. Data still hitting that Baron and taking a lot of damage. Hyundai low on the opposite side. Mental Cow should eventually fall. Jace able to pick him up. The curtain call over the top, trying to do something. Jed forced to flash away from a Chow, but it will be safety nonetheless for the side of AFP. A Baron picked up, and as they are dressed in purple, they look to march on the enemy base. Rel trying to collapse onto Syndra. Jace trying to find a little bit of damage down. A Chow is burning from the Ignite. Miracle Whips not letting him out of his sight. Data with the E over the top, not quite able to connect, but the Q from the Rel, or at least the crash down from the Rel, will be able to find that kill. Syndra in the grave. Skarner respawning soon. AFP bear down on For Fun's base.
Oh yeah, angry French peasants are treating that Syndra like it's Marie Antoinette that they had, and they find it at the end of the day. AFP 3-0. We're seeing just why they're at the top of the table. The members of For Fun have respawned, but it's a Baron buff on 5. They're all together. The waves are shoving in. They're all in For Fun's face. And it just feels like they can maybe go for last round.
Skarner ultimate, but there's no damage to follow up. He gets deleted. Ziggs ult over the top. Hyundai low. Cassante doing what he can, but Thenor is just going to get melted through as well. Shima trying to peel Cool Jace in the back, doing so much work. It will be the Cassante dying in the end. The Nexus exposed, and AFP look to go 1-0 up here in this series.
What a performance there from AFP. It felt like For Fun, particularly in that mid game, had the ability to reel it around. There was a lot of mistakes that AFP made, right? You know, they were going too deep. Oftentimes they would lose a pick in a lot of those exchanges. So there was an opportunity at some point in the game for Fun to maybe make something happen. But AFP, with that early game, just taking control of that top side, having such a strong top side as well. And they knew the assignment, right? We talked about this team. They know how to win games, and they know what side of the map to play for. And that was crystal clear here in game number 1. And it's part of the reason why they are so good, why they are 3-0 so far, and looking to go 4-0. One more game would do it, and it's going to be up to For Fun to turn the tables and find a little bit of a light here in this darkness of a tunnel.
Yeah, it definitely is, right. For Fun, definitely a few question marks there over, what their game plan was in the early game, especially in consideration of their draft, right? And I mean, like, it seems like they have been struggling with their roster, swapping around a couple of their players, figuring out what lanes they actually want to be playing, and maybe are playing for fun. I don't want to throw it out there, but maybe these guys don't practice that much and they haven't been able to prep for a draft. So maybe we'll see something very different when we get into next game. Now that they have drafted against this team, now that they have played against them, they maybe know what they want to take off the table for angry French peasants, and we could see a very different team coming into game 2. But we'll be back after a really short break, guys, where we get into game 2 right after this. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Risen Dominate Week 4. My name is Drake. I'm joined by Quacks, and we're here to watch AFP take on For Fun in the second game of the day. For Fun have elected for that red side yet again. And I mean, Quacks, they chose it in the first game. They chose it again in the second time. They said, it may be broken, but we're not going to fix it anyways. Do you feel
Yeah.
like red side is the better side at the moment?
I think red side gives you a good counter pick in the top side of the map. So if four farm really want to go again and play for that top side, then I certainly think there is a value in it, right? Getting that counter pick in that pivotal matchup lane that is top side. I'm sure every single top laner can attest to that. But it also means the AFP have the opportunity to pick some of these power champions on blue, and they are just going to insta lock that Syndra. No surprise there. And it is worth noting we are in fearless draft, ladies and gentlemen. So those champs you see above the draft, those are all taken away for their respective teams. Say, for example, AFP wanted to play Skarner. It's not locked for them, but it is locked for Fun, who played it in game number 1. And that Skarner pick might be what we're seeing. It did not go through the ban phase. I mean, we saw the Syndra. We're going to potentially see the Jhin now picked up as a response to the Ashe and the Melio. And I think Skarner, if you want that little bit of lockdown like we saw in game number 1, it would be a very valuable pick.
I mean, it would be just the ultimate BM if you lock in the entire team comp that they played
Yeah,
last game,
yeah.
right? Like that's what I'm seeing unfold in front of me. But Karma is, in my opinion, a better champion
Nice.
than the Janna, so they've already developed that draft a little bit, but pretty
Mhm.
much running it back with what For Fun ran in the last game, at least in the mid and ADC roles. And
Mhm.
Ashe Milio is a good combo. I like to see it from For Fun. It's a slightly different um change of pace, right? I mean, Jin and Ashe fundamentally, like, they both follow up on a team fight afterwards from really far away, and that's like
Yep.
kind of the same idea. But Milio flipping the script a little bit from the Janna, and if the Sejuani is locked, I mean, that's kind of the same thing as the Sejuani, and I would have maybe liked to see um, Mental Cow on something a little bit more aggressive in that jungle role.
Me as well, but I think that Sejuani, being picked signals that we're going to be seeing a bit of an aggressive top side of the map, similar to
That
what
would
we
be nice,
saw
yeah.
AFP drafting game number 1, because Sejuani at the current moment doesn't have any melee champions that she can bounce her E off of and get those Winter's bites. So I think we're probably going to see some aggression on the top side of the map, and you can see AFP are probably anticipating that, banning away the Camille, banning away the Mordekaiser. Yone is also taken off the table, so that good pairing is also not up for grabs this time around. And I really want to see them go for a mid lane counter pick here. Ahri is up and available, but that just means that you don't have a melee champion to bounce off of. Maybe something like a Galio could work as well if you want to negate some of the damage from Syndra. It's also really good at dealing with Karma. They are going to go for the Ahri for the time being, but this is a very pivotal matchup, and one that I'm not sure we're going to be able to see For Fun survive at the end of the day.
Yeah, and I'm a bit surprised that they didn't just lock in the LeBlanc. They have played it before.
Yeah.
Archeo already played it in Risen last week. So I mean, maybe they just didn't like it. They're like, you know what, nah, Archeo LeBlanc is not it. So I guess Ari is going to be what they lock in instead. Kind of a similar champion, functionality wise in the team fights. Nunu
Oh,
would be
my
interesting to
quest?
see.
Holy shit, it
Proceed to
deflected.
fly quest respect. It's actually locked as well. Okay, so sick. I am a Nunu connoisseur. I main that champion for like way too many mastery points. So
You're so disgusting, Drake. What?
there's only one way
Nasty.
to climb to diamond in EUW, and that's playing Nunu. That's all I'm saying. So uh
That's
it
fair.
got it got locked in, and it's really going to rise the pace of the game for AFP. We already saw them kind of dictate the pace in the last game. It's going to be interesting to see them fully in the driver's seat, right? Ganking
Ugh.
nonstop. And I don't know how For Fun are going to react to that.
I hate this Maokai pick. I'm gonna be completely out. Where's the damage
Where is
for
the
fun?
damage? That is the
What
question.
champion is going to be hurting the Wukong? Hell, even getting to the backline is going to be a challenge. Maokai has to be in your face in order to get that twisted advance and that nature's grasp off. So where exactly are we looking at for fun in order to be that big carry? The Ari? That's going to get one shot. That's going to get absolutely taken out of the game. The Syndra plus the Wukong is going to lock it up for so long that it's not going to have any time to react. I really don't like this for fun to draft. I'm really worried about the later stages of the game. Early game might be acceptable. You've got a lot of peel, you've got a lot of just safety in your champions kits. But once this game breaks open, once the Syndra gets some items, once this Nunu goes snowballing around and having to contest some of those objectives against that pick, as we all know, is super impossible. It feels like this game is going to run away from for fun unless they can really reel something in the early game with this Maokai champion or this Sejuani champion. But even that, I just picture being so difficult.
Yeah, I want to say like, hear me out. Full AP Sejuani, it's really broken, bro. Like it's super like niche tech. It's been broken for ages. You build an Asterisk Tooth first item. It's just not that good. I don't know what they're planning here with the damage department for the side of For Fun. All I know is the AFP once again have an insane team fight comp as well as the early game
Yeah.
prowess that they had in the last game, right? Syndra, we mentioned it last time, is a little bit more of a scaling option, but still has the QE to follow up, still has a decent amount of damage in the early game. Nunu kind of shores up on any of Syndra's issues in the early game with all of the CC available to him. And I mean, Wukong Jin, there's really nothing more to be said with the karma to boot.
Yeah.
Like, AFP have the makings of absolutely running over this map again. So it's going to be the onus completely on For Fun this game, whether they're able to pull the reins in, like you said, and with this draft that is designed pretty much entirely to be comfortable, right? To stay alive and hopefully just keep everyone alive. I guess if they can do that for 20, 30, 40 minutes, maybe we see something crazy, but it's going to be really hard for Fun to pull the trigger and do any damage in these team fights.
Yeah, it feels like the engage is just not there for them. But I'm kind of glad that you mentioned the crowd side of AFP. It is worth noting they've got two knockups on their side, right? So they really make it difficult for Emilio to cleanse all of these because you can't cleanse
Mhm.
knockups, right? You can't hit him with the ultimate there to get them away from the Cyclone, from the biggest snowball ever. It's going to be kind of a good counter to Emilio at the end of the day. But yeah, just the general lockdown, excluding those knockups is absolutely insane. It's going to be really difficult for the Ash in particular to operate this game at an okay level because theoretically, if we're talking about damage, you're looking at Ash and Ari to be the big carries, but Ash should never be able to walk up in any of these team fights, right? I don't care how long range the volley is. I don't care how much range the Milio gives you additionally with those cozy campfires. One little hit on that pick and it's lights out for the Ash. War Mother, Dead Mother, more like, because it's going to be an impossible game, it feels like, for Fun and their carries to even step up to the comp of AFP.
Yeah, and that, kind of sums up the draft. I mean, I hate to be
I'm
like the Debbie
trying, man.
Downer, right? Like
I'm
I
really
know that.
trying here.
Listen, guys, we are analysts at the end of the day, and when we're analyzing this draft, it looks absolutely abysmal for Fun. So they have to pull something out of the garbage if they want to secure this one. It's going to be difficult, right? Ash really has no one to peel. Like she likes to peel tanky guys who have melee range, but you have
Yeah.
Jin, Karma, Syndra, and then you have Nunu Wukong, which kind of just don't care about Ash trying to cut you.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, right, you were mentioning the knockups. Milio's going to have a rough time, and the damage department is so lacking for Fun. So We're going to go to a short break, guys. We'll come back with game two, and we'll either see a miracle from For Fun or we'll see AFP absolutely run over this game. But either way, I'm excited to see it. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Risen Dominate Week 4. My name is Drake. I'm joined by Quacks, and we have on our screens Game 2 of AFP versus For Fun. And it's going to be a fun one, to say the least. We do have a little bit of an unorthodox draft on either side. Wukong in that top lane, Nunu locked in. And, I mean, we were talking about the lack of damage for the side of For Fun. So, I mean, interesting one. Quacks, you excited to see this one play out?
I'm excited to see how For Fun can kind of put a wrench in my prediction because we said it in the draft that this is a very suboptimal draft. They don't have a lot of damage. A lot of the carries that they have in the Ashe and the Ari are gonna have to walk up, but I mean, I'm looking at AFP's comp, and how do you walk up against these guys, right? You will get CC stunned, locked up, and completely one-shot later on in the game once this Syndra gets her stacks, once this Wukong gets its items. It's going to be a really difficult game for Fun to play out unless they can pull something off in this early game. But so far, nothing too crazy has besmirched the level 1 for either team. So for the time being, it's just a regular game of League of Legends. Both junglers, though, starting on opposite sides.
Yeah, and I mean, like, this draft for fun, right, is essentially the ultimate protect the president team comp, right? Like, you can keep Shima and Achao alive for a very long time because Achao is able to peel for themselves, Shima is able to peel for themselves. They have the barrier, they have the Milio to back them up. They have two very beefy, jungle champions that are meant to peel. So it is going to be very difficult to actually get onto these two champions. But as we were talking about, the damage output might be lacking. So I think it's definitely a case of making sure Achao and Shima are in the game here for fun. And AFP, definitely the name of the game for them is going to be getting those two behind. And I mean, Nunu, what better champion to be able to do that? Ganks mid lane so easily, and Ari without level 6 is going to have an absolute problem dealing with that champion. And it looks like Nunu pathing towards that top side isn't even going to be prioritizing the bot lane.
I mean, certainly, why does he have to, right? We can see that there is a push in the bot lane, so no real gank opportunity available down there. All of the lanes, actually, for AFP are pushing, meaning that this Nunu doesn't have to do anything too fancy in the early game. It's just going to probably go for that full clear. But it's looking like Mental Cow wants to do some fancy footwork early on. Is going toward the mid lane. The Scatter of the Week just was used.
And the W does land onto Jason. The stun not quite going to come out with the charm, but the E is there, and that's going to be Jason the Grave. That's going to be Mental Cow with first blood, and for fun, start this game off with a bang.
Good follow-up there from Achao with the flash. Does miss the charm, but they managed to get just enough damage to follow LL Cool Jace at the end of the day. So no flashes in the mid lane means it's very easy for not just Mental Cow on the Sejuani, but also Data on this Nunu to punish potentially that lack of summoner spell. So we'll have to see where that goes for the time being. As for the time being, it is just a relatively quiet game. Mental Cow trying to keep up the pressure is in the bot side of the map, but there is vision. And this just means that the Nunu, despite that kill going over to the Sejuani, the gold is beginning to equalize for AFP as this Nunu is able to get enough gold with those camps to kind of make it even for the time being.
And I mean, crucially, it is going to be a timer of these next two levels for Achao, right? For Data to actually gank that mid lane. Because once Ari has level 6, it is very easy to dash away from that Nunu snowball. Sometimes you do think you've dashed away from it and then the hitbox is absolutely massive. But for the most part, at this level of play, you'd hope that these players are able to dodge away from that thing. But pre-level 6, you run into a few issues. The Scatter Week onto Achao, the knock-up from the Nunu, the E is there, and it's as good as done for Achao. Lights out. And Jace secures that kill for himself.
Yeah, well done there by Data. Waiting in that bush time, just waiting for Achao to walk up. They realized they didn't have flash, and they punished the Ari for it. Ari, though, does have teleport, so we'll be able to, decently catch a good amount of this wave. It's not the end of the world at the end of the day, but it is a kill going over to LL Cool Jace, and it's the first of potentially many win conditions unlocked for AFP.
And it looks like Jace might find himself in a little bit of trouble. Mental Cow repeating what the Nunu just did, finds the E, and Achao, without connecting that charm yet again, will pick up the kill nonetheless. And Achao gets one for himself on the board.
Really good recognition there from a Mental Cow. Realized the Nunu was on the bot side of the map, had a wrap around, played around with the vision, and managed to get yet another gank off on the mid lane. This really has been the story of game number 2 thus far. The other lanes not having too much action. You can see it's kind of just been a push for AFP, meaning that Data will have a lot more wiggle room when it comes to these neutral objectives. That priority gonna come in handy in a little bit here as we are around 30 seconds away from those scrubs spawning. And unless something drastic changes on those solo lane waves in priority, I would imagine it's probably going to be AFP just going to secure them.
And I mean, a pretty strong start for the Jhin here. Jed does have about 10 CS up on this Ashe, so going to be a pretty confident position for this Jhin. and this bottom lane for the side of AFP, and it is kind of one of the win conditions for AFP, right? I feel like Jhin, Syndra are going to be the makings of absolutely one-shotting a singular member of For Fun. You do need to get onto the Ashe Ahri at the end of the day if you want to actually stop the damage. So it's good to see that they're getting him a little bit ahead. The scrubs have been started up by Data, and it looks like it will be Mental Cow trading for that dragon, exactly like we saw in the last game.
Deja vu of game number 1. Good recognition for Mental Cow. Realizes he doesn't have the priority on those solo lanes like we said they needed to change in order for a contest to be possible. They didn't, so he's just going to trade at the end of the day. AFP, though, finishing those grubs really, really quickly. I'm wondering, actually, if they wanted to contest this dragon, but it looks like, just based off the positioning of Data on the minimap, he is perfectly content going for that topside Gromp, along with anything that might be up there. So it's going to be trading objectives. Good on For Fun for recognizing that, but it doesn't look like it is going to extend beyond that. They can't look for any kind of a dive as Jed has both some.
And Archeo has level 6 now, so the Spirit Rush available to him means that on the opposite side, For Fun also very safe in their lanes, not going to have to worry about any dives. And, you know, so far so good for either of these two teams. AFP, I feel like, pretty comfortable with scaling towards the mid game. The mid game is where they're really going to shine, right? Like Wukong with one item, Nunu with that Bombies is pretty much full build at this point anyways, but looking towards the Jhin and the Syndra, they both thrive in the mid game as well. So
yeah,
pretty happy to just kind of wait it out until about 15 minutes, and that's when this game's really going to explode.
And it feels like that item advantage is going to come sooner than we think, because we're seeing a significant amount of CS discrepancies on the top lane and the bot lane as well. Shima managed to catch up a little bit in CS, but, you know, I'm looking at Sir Raven. He is really having a decent amount of a lead in terms of score compared to Thenor, as Chu is going in.
Yeah, I mean, tried, but Miracle Whip's, you know, karma moment, able to walk away from that one. Still had flash and heal, so relatively safe in that one. Burnt the ultimate, crucially, for Archeo, and that does mean that Nunu can, or sorry, Archeo, and that does mean that Nunu can look here, but Hyundai, noticing that, doing good support things, managing to stay in the area, will dissuade that, I hope.
Yeah. For the time being, it is a much quieter game than game number 1. It really felt like AFP put their foot on the gas on the top side of the map, and while the top side is still really strong, Archeo.
Okay, the flash forward forces the flash from Syndra, and that means that the Glacial Prison can connect. Cool Jace nearly getting caught by that arrow, but Mental Cow gonna be the one that picks that one up. No American snipers for the side of For Fun this time around in the bottom lane, though. That means that Ashe doesn't have ult to fight in this 2v2, but Miracle Whip's not level 6 just yet. Hyundai is level 6, and that means Emilio ult is available. Shima able to get a lot of damage done. Jed gonna get knocked back by that Emilio paddle, and okay, the curtain gets called, and the stage is set. Shima is gonna get clipped by one, but Jed not able to finish the job. Mental Cow there, once again, is everywhere this game to make sure that For Fun stays together.
Mental Cow putting in the work around the map, but you can see Data on the other side, maybe looking to pop a gank, but for the time being, we've got Mental Cow still in the bot lane.
Is this diveable?
I don't know, he doesn't have ult, but this certainly is killable.
Okay, Thenor with a good Q, able to stop that Nunu ult, but it's going to be a kill picked up nonetheless. Data able to pick that one up for himself in the bottom lane. It looks like Sejuani might be gearing up for the dive. Mental Cow not quite able to connect with the Q, the flash away from Jed, but the the tower aggro had not been taken, and that means that he will be able to get out alive, forcing the flash from the Jhin and putting For Fun in a pretty advantageous situation in this bottom side.
For sure, I think this is definitely going to feel good for Shima and Hyundai, you know, later on in the game, but it can't feel good for Mental Cow. He expended so much time in that bot lane, and they didn't have anything to show for it. And meanwhile, you can see AFP took complete control of that top side of the map. Remnants of game number 1 kind of coming through here now. The grubs are going to spawn in a little less than a minute. It feels like
the flash forward from Miracle Whips just to make sure the chain will connect, and the W over the top. Jed trying to find the damage to get down, but he will not be able to find the last auto attack he needed. And Ashe making very sure to run out of that W range, will eventually reset. That's going to be AFP, you know, kind of clapping back in this bottom lane.
For sure. Good recognition there from Jed, knowing when to get aggressive. Now, kind of want to pull our eyes toward the top side of the map. Like I just said, a lot of vision being layered down here by AFP to just secure the second spawn of grubs, and they're going to try and use it on the top side.
Yeah, the Cyclone is there, and the roll in, and the knock up onto Thenor. Slightly too close to those minions means that Data will have the knock up available to him. So Raven flashing over Thenor to try and stop him getting into the bush and get vision of him. And that means that Data will be able to pick up that kill onto the tree yet again. And AFP continue to try and dominate this top side.
I mean, Mental Cow doesn't have the smite. Let's see if Data can maybe steal this one
No
away.
way.
He's got. Oh
Mental
no!
Cow got it. Wait, did Mental Cow get it? Yeah, Mental Cow
He
did
did
get
it.
it, but I mean, they have control of the pit, and that means that 2 more Void Grubs are going to go the way of Data. And AFP, I mean, 5 Grubs, it's not as bad as last game.
And despite all of the efforts from Mental Cow, I mean, look at how behind he is compared to Data, right? It's a 30 CS lead in the jungle. The Zeke's is coming through from the Sejuani, so at the end of the day, it's not the biggest deal, but it just means that Data is going to be very strong in a lot of these fights. Speaking of fights.
Yeah, I was going to say the fighting doesn't stop, but it does when Shima misses the arrow. And that means Miracle Whips will be able to get out alive. But I like to see it. 4Fun very willing to pull the trigger here in Game 2. Very willing to just throw out those ultimates, expend those abilities, and Mental Cow really deciding the pace of this game despite Data being on that Nunu. It's a really good look for 4Fun as they move towards this dragon and once again continue to try and dictate this pace of this game.
I like this, right? They have the ability to go for this. They've got vision and they're down on that side. You can see Jed, though, is on the side, but his team not grouped up with him. Data doesn't have the flash, so can't go for anything too crazy. Probably just doesn't want to give that bounty over to anyone as well. I mean, you go in, there's no guarantee you're coming out, especially with a Chu having Cryo in the mid lane, but they're going in anyway.
Yeah, and that's going to be Shima knocked up and rooted, and the Nunu ult to boot. It gets stopped by Mental Cow, but it's just enough damage for Jin to finish him off. Jed trying to get a few more auto attacks down. Hyundai taking a lot of damage from that Q. The 4th shot available, but no flash. Follow up, Hyundai will get out to safety. Achao might be the one in danger now. The roll does not quite land. And the E not landing either. The charm comes out from Mateo, and it might be enough to kill the Nunu. The Q is there, though, and the heal is just enough to keep him alive. Mental Cow with a flash over the wall. The Emilio ult to boot, and he's able to get out to safety. But Jed able to secure that kill onto Ari on the opposite side. Thenor has TP'd in. Data is still alive. Miracle Whips and eventually going down, but the flash forward from Jace, and that might just be enough to finish off the Sejuani and the tree. Jed here to follow up as well. The Cinder will go down. Thenor might even be able to get out and turn towards the Jin. Jed so low. Thenor not gonna go down. The auto attack to get the heal. Shima finishing off the Jin, and it's gonna be a team fight win for 4Fun in the end.
Data, though, saving Private Data was the objective of that mission. They managed to save the Nunu, but they all kind of fall in return. So much gold going the way of 4Fun. Still not enough to make up for the fact that AFP are around 4,000 gold ahead. But it's a good place for 4Fun to be in, right? Because they've got the dragon in their controls. As we are going to a pause here. Just started here in game number 2 for 4Fun and AFP. We're back. Just as soon as we left, we are right back into the Rift.
And we can see maybe, did you see? Oh, no, Mental Cow just holding the wave. But Sir Raven might find himself in a little bit of danger. Does have the Cyclone available, going to try and use it to get it out. We have a spectator bug right now because of the delay earlier on. Sir Raven will be back shortly. And Nunu can maybe roll in if we're looking at positioning of the teammates, but Ari can move in. I think this is a very dead Wukong on my screen. No flash available. Thenor has flash. I mean, this has to be a dead Wukong. Yeah, the Glacial Prison comes out from Mental Cow, and a lot of damage coming out from these two tanks.
Look at Data.
Surprisingly, Archeo moving in though, and Nunu, yeah, will stop that ball in its tracks. Sir Raven will get taken down, but not after claiming that tier 1 turret.
It's a takedown, but it is a lengthy at that, right? It took a lot of resources for them to get that Wukong, and I think if a Chao did not show up there and land that charm, it might have bought enough time for Data and Cool Chase to come up to that side of the map and potentially assist the Wukong and save him, similar to what they just did with Data. But yeah, they get that kill. The lack of damage, though, really starting to become apparent here for 4Fun as AFP are just chugging away. They get the Herald, and more advantages going the way of their pocket.
Yeah, it's tale as old as time, you know. We have one team with no damage and a lot of tanks, and it does work out in a few of these team fights, and we have another team with a full-on we will kill you team composition, but they kind of struggle when it comes to these team fights because they are all squishy, so it's going to be a bit scary as they operate through these team fights. It looks like Nunu is going for the full tank build, so at least there's a little bit of reprieve there. Not going to be bomber coming out from the side of I guess is just that
Yep.
Uh,
And it looks like maybe Mental
we have
Cow
blood,
onto
but where
LJ.
is okay. Hello, no more S in chat, guys. We are back with the game, and it doesn't look like too much has happened. Sejuani did walk away alive from that Skirpuffle with the Nunu earlier on, and Data will drop that Rift Herald in the bottom side. Jace trying to get this wave in, and looks like he will be able to do so, but Mental Cow and a Chow lying in wait, and Jace does have to be a little bit careful of the Sejuani moving in. Is going to be able to get that turret taken down, but a Chow with the Sejuani to back him up will be able to get this kill here onto the Syndra eventually. And they should be able to get out of dodge. The Nunu not going to be too much of a threat on his lonesome. The TP coming out from Sir Raven. But it's so hard to actually catch up to these two champions. It looks like they will be able to get out alive. And, I mean, For Fun, looking pretty darn good. They don't have a gold lead. It is still 4,000 in the deficit, but they have a kill lead.
For sure, they are
For now.
managing to get some
Good double
stage,
knockup coming out from
there
Data.
we
The fourth shot to secure that one for the Jhin. And Shima is in a little bit of threat, considering that Sir Raven is underneath his tier 2 turret. But the Wukong will not be able to secure that kill onto the Ashe. And, I mean, AFP showing that, you know, the wallet diff is a little bit more important than the kill diff.
They managed to engage onto there, and you can see just how little fear Sir Raven has when going for dives on toward Shima, who actually walked all the way back to the base, didn't even channel a recall. That is how scared he was of Lemon, if you will. But AFP, with that fight, managed to finally get themselves a dragon.
Ashe Herald. I mean,
yeah,
they
I don't
really
know if
want this fight.
though.
Is it a fight that you want to take? Like, the fight's over. Like, they got the dragon. You're looking for a fight into multiple members of the enemy team that have so many CC abilities. Cyclone onto the backline, Nunu with the flash ult forward, but it will be a Chow getting out of the damage range of that. Shima trying to find a little bit more to follow up. The W going the opposite direction. A little bit of a misclick there, so Raven able to disengage as well. Jhin gets a kill off the back. And AFP, they weren't even looking for that fight, but they won it anyways.
And this is what we're talking about. The damage profile on For Fun is just not there, but they might be able to find Sir Raven.
I mean, he looked for a 1v3 and it might have
Oh
worked
my
out.
god,
The
he's
Nunu
gonna get
snowball
out!
is there, and he is going to get out. And I don't even think they win the fight now that Data's here. And in that top side, the entire dang time, Jace has been wailing away at that tier 2 turret. Finally picks it up for themselves. And, I mean, the wave is going to crash. You get a tier 1 on the bottom side. You lost the team fight anyways, bot. Like, For Fun, I mean, they pulled the trigger, but at what cost?
And where the hell is the damage for Fun? I mean, we're seeing Shima has that Blade of the Ruin King complete. We can see their completed items by a Chow as well, but they're not enough. The top side is so damn tanky. Data and Sir Raven are so difficult to kill. You add on the fact that the Karma is constantly healing, constantly shielding, constantly stunning up, and it just makes your job as For Fun so difficult. Even Mental Cow is looking for some damage, but cannot find it onto Jed.
Oh, and Tentacles Arrow actually lands onto the Jhin after the curtain call, but Mental Cow is going to go down to Chow into the backline, trying to get the damage done, but Jhin does not fall until the end, but a double kill coming out from Jace afterwards. The Flash EQ not going to be able to connect onto Hyundai. And it looks like he will be able to get out to safety, but not without Shima, a Chow, and Mental Cow all going down, only for the cost of Jet.
All of the members of AFP, save Sir Raven, are grouped up in this mid lane. They're finally going to bust down this turret. It feels like the biggest thing they've been trying to do for the past 5 minutes is claim this outer mid lane tower. Now they finally got it. So much of the map opens up for them. Now they can play a lot more aggressively, and it just limits what For Fun can do from here on out. I mean, you can see Hyundai trying to look for some kind of a poke, but without any teammates around. I say that, hold on, they're all coming.
I was going to say, I mean, one thing we cannot fault this team for is trying. For Fun, once again, looking for this fight. Hyundai not going to be able to flash out of that damage from the Nunu, but will be able to get the safety nonetheless. Jace able to dissuade any more follow-up coming out from For Fun. And, I mean, despite the gold deficit, despite the turret deficit, despite their deficit in this game as a whole, they continue to look for these fights. And, I mean, it's good to see that For Fun still have that mentality intact.
For Fun are still trying to look for a lot of these exchanges, but they're behind in items. They don't have the damage. I don't know how many more times I can say it. That is their biggest kryptonite here into this game. And then you add on to the fact that the disengage from AFP is so damn good. And it's just impossible for even a champion like Ari with her 3 dashes to stick onto any one particular member of AFP. So as a result, they make out like bandits every time they go for a fight. It's 1 or maybe 2 kills for AFP, and then they simply run away like right now.
I mean, this is just Nunu 101. Data moving in, gets the W, gets the E, locks them all up, keeps them in place. Mental Cow taking a lot of damage on the exit, the snowball available, and the follow-up to boot. Mental Cow might not have a way out. Hyundai with a good paddle, able to get Mental Cow to safety. The curtain gets called, but it will not find the Sejuani. And Mental Cow will actually make it out alive, but not without Shima dying, not without AFP once again bearing down on their base.
It is actually Sir Raven on the other side.
Okay, I mean, this Wukong is taking damage, ever so slightly. Will go down eventually to Thenor and Achao. It was 3 men committed to be able to kill this Wukong. It's so hard for For Fun to fight back.
For sure. I mean, they managed to get the kill. They shut down Sir Raven for the time being. Might have been actually a really good critical pick because we've got the Dragon coming up in about 40 seconds here. You can see all of the members of For Fun are kind of around this mid lane, hoping to push forward and get some vision down, try to get this soul point, because realistically, that's your biggest win con, right? Soul, or rather the Infernal Soul, would fix a lot of your issues. It would fix your damage profile. It would make you so much more difficult to, like, to kind of peel off of with all that damage. You would have a lot more burst. So if they can get this, then I can certainly see the game being a lot easier for them. But until that happens, we can see AFP are just more than happy to take control of this game.
Yeah, Jace absolutely melting through Achao, and TP coming out from the Wukong. Mental Cow not going to be able to get any damage done onto Jace. On the opposite side, Shima caught in between Data and a hard place, is going to have to flash over that wall. Hyundai left on his lonesome to deal with Karma, and Nunu on himself. On the opposite side, Syndra goes down into danger for Sejuani. So Raven into the backline, the Cyclone. It's a bouncy castle into the back of For Fun. Hyundai will go down eventually. Actually might be able to get out. That is going to be a very tricky Milio, but the double kill coming out from Karma, Thenor eventually falling as well, and AFP look to put the kibosh on this one.
Well done fight there by AFP. It was cool. Jace buying so much time for the entire squad. The survivability that the Karma brings, the teleports coming in from Sir Raven, it made it so difficult for them to get that kill. And once they did, all of the members of For Fun were scattered throughout the lane, and they got picked up one by one by one. And the objectives now in the base of For Fun are getting picked off one by one by one. And it's an inhibitor, it's a broken mid lane, and that Dragon looking mighty juicy.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's going to be any sort of a problem for AFP to pick that up. Maybe even get a kill before it happens. Achao going to get taken down. It's going to be a headshot for the Jhin here. And, I mean, Mental Cow trying to get this kill into Miracle Whip, but we just talked about how slippery this Karma can be, how much sustain she offers. Jed moving in. The 4th shot not actually doing any damage to this Sejuani, but it doesn't need to. You have Data on the opposite side. You have Sir Raven in this fight. You have Mental Cow in the grave. It's going to be 2 kills for now for the side of AFP. For Fun don't look like they're going to be trading any back anytime soon. Thenor, a tanky boy, but not going to be able to do any damage back. Eventually will end up falling on the opposite side. So Raven into the backline, able to kill the Milio. Shima next to fall, and that's just going to be everyone falling for the side of AFP. This Maokai stayed along for so dang long, but it just doesn't matter.
And Respawns now for 4 members of For Fun. You can see Cool Jace pushing on the top lane. Didn't even need to join up in that fight. Had the teleport, but just did not feel like using it. And now mid lane inhibitor broken. Top lane is next to fall. And it feels like
now,
For
once
Fun
again-
have nothing left in the tank here. Drake,
Oh
it
my-
feels like they're all out of gas.
All right, Jed might have thought he had a little bit more damage than he did, but the karma is still there to keep him alive, to heal the shield, and it's just dang enough. Mental Cow finally able to finish him off. Mental Cow is not taking any damage either. On the opposite side of Chow gets blitzed by Jason. That's just enough to finish him off. The Sejuani running for the hills, but Shima gets his head taken off as well. A double kill by Jace, and he looks to rip through the enemy team. Hyundai trying to get to the Nexus. Sejuani not far from it. Maokai not taking any damage, but the Nexus is exposed. AFP are looking to end this one here, and now Hyundai running back to the Nexus once again. The Fountain is their only safe haven now. Mental Cow in the bouncy castle. Hyundai taken down. Thenor, the last remaining member of For Fun, and the tree will not fall, but the Nexus will.
A 2-0 clean series there from AFP, showing why they are now the 4-0 team in their respective division. Well played from everyone all around, but really big shout out to Data in particular. It felt like that Nunu pick, you know, it is kind of a niche champion, right? It is newly discovered. FlyQuest kind of pioneered that and gave everyone the idea to say, hey, maybe try it out. Data tried it out, and I think Data liked it. They rather were, you know, just having a blast, it seemed like, right? Because they managed to, you know, have a 2-level lead over the Sejuani, despite the Sejuani being on the map. Every single neutral objective past those 2 dragons was theirs, and the game felt like theirs. Even when we had some plays coming out from For Fun, it really felt like the angry French peasants had nowhere to go but up.
I don't remember the last time that I saw a 16 towards looking like 18,000 gold lead for a team. That is absolutely redonkulous for the side of AFP. I mean, like you said, really showing why they are now 4-0 in the standings. And, you know, For Fun sadly showing why they are 0-4. Definitely struggling a lot in that game.
Mhm.
And, sorry, an absolutely dominant performance coming out from the angry French peasants, and especially in that top side, right? Sir Raven getting so much darn work done, 35,000 damage, out damaging everyone on his team, nearly doubling the damage of his jungler. I mean, more than doubling, right? So just
Yeah.
really insane performance coming out from him. And I mean, I don't know what more I can say about these stats. It was a absolutely dominant performance coming out from AFP.
Certainly was. And I mean, for the side of For Fun, it has to feel bad for them because although playoffs are still a few weeks away, right? Going down 0-4 never ever feels good. It basically means that it's not fully in your hands whether or not you make playoffs
Yeah.
at this point. So it's a bit of a hope and a prayer if they want to go there. And they also have got to probably win the next 3 weeks if they want to keep this one alive, or the playoff
Yeah.
hopes rather alive. But other than that, dominant win from AFP, and certainly looking forward to seeing more of them because I think this is a squad that can really go far if they play like this consistent.
Yeah, and it's so exciting to see, you know, new teams arising from the ranks here in Dominate. It's always nice to see that fresh blood, to see a team that we haven't ever seen before, with 5 new names that we haven't seen before here in Dominate, and see them dominate, right? So it's definitely some good stuff coming out from them. And like you said, on that opposite side, nearly mathematically chalked for the side of For Fun at this point. Like you said, not in their hands. They have 4 more weeks to play, I believe, or wait, no, 3 more weeks to play, and even then, it's only the top 4 in the group that get to
Yeah.
proceed. So nigh unfeasible for them to be able to get into those playoffs. So, you know, this might be a little bit of an 0-7 for Fun, the last time we're going to see them here in Dominate for the season. But either way, it was fun to watch. It was a great series. And Quacks, do you have anything else before we sign ourselves off?
No, sir, I do not. But I am a very back in Dominate. And Drake, welcome to Dominate. What an inaugural series here for you on this season. It's nice to be able to cast with you again, buddy. It feels like it's been way too long, and this certainly was a series. So I had a lot of fun doing it. And thank you to both teams. And thank you to you, Drake. Thank you to Chippy. And Drake, do you want to do the honors?
I might as well. Thank you as well. And thank you, everyone who has been watching at home. for joining us for this one. Absolute dominant victory for Angry French Peasants yet again, and hope to see more of them. So we'll be back after, about a week here in Dominate, but there's so much Risen going on. Keep tuning in every single day, and we'll see you guys shortly.